Hi, I'm Ariki Nippon. This is a video response to Barbarossa's Men's Empowerment. And before I begin with the analysis, before I begin with what I think Barbarossa's trying to do, I would like to say that it does bother me just a little bit that he contends that these are problems that only men can fix. The fact that we can't elicit any support from women on certain issues. But I'm here to say that I think we can use women as a means of support. I think we can use people that are invested in these issues, much like the equality feminists or the I-feminists are. And there are some women out there that aren't even considered feminists or don't consider themselves feminists that would be all for our position as men's rights activists or secular humanists or people who believe in equality in the United States of America. Now, I've read many different books on leadership, and most of the books are devoid of any kind of biases for what would benefit. If you're a male, these things might help you out in your decision-making process or leadership and so on. And that takes out one very big element of the humanity. This book about leadership is mostly about process-oriented thinking rather than humanistic-oriented thinking. Thinking that certain things might make us tick regardless of gender. But there are certain things that are innate qualities that make, for example, women better than men. Women tend to do better overall when it comes to networking. They tend to have that ability above us. And I think this describes you, Barbarossa. People will also be more creative when they are intrinsically motivated or feel challenged by the subject matter or problem themselves. And it goes on to say, people who have more complex or challenging jobs, who have supportive, non-controlling leaders, and are giving ample time seem to be more creative than people in uninteresting jobs who are under tight deadlines and also have highly controlling supervisors. I think this describes you, Barbarossa. You feel that there's something out there that we're not doing enough. The men's rights activists tend to read all the fucked up things that go on in our society when it comes to men's rights, and we sit on our thumbs and watch YouTube all day or watch men-woman myth videos and complain about it and do nothing. And in that sense, I am all aboard with you. But to say that we need lawyers that only support men in our efforts as men to achieve certain things, I don't think that's necessarily the right answer. I think you are on the right track. But again, I don't want to become like the feminists and saying, we're only going to support women just because they're women. We're going to be all aboard with them because they are women, for women's sake, for us, by us mentality. The reason I think this is dangerous is because it can easily lean to the extreme end, and I don't want that to be the goal of the men's rights movement. And maybe that's bad for me to kind of impose or impart that kind of view on the men's rights movement. My ultimate goal is seeking equality, and there are some very important rights that aren't specifically addressed. For example, gay rights. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is one of the best federal laws that made sure that people cannot be disenfranchised based on race, gender, color of the skin, and religious orientation, and so on. The one thing that they excluded from it, not specifically, but they didn't include it in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, was sexual orientation. I don't have any personal vested interest, as I am not a homosexual, But there are homosexuals that have been fired just for being homosexual because the Civil Rights Act of 1964 or any other federal law does not have any specific protection against sexual orientation. There are 14 states that have protection, that do offer protection for sexual orientation, but the rest of the states do not. And I think there should be a federal ban or a federal law that actually does protect those people's rights, and that does have a very meaningful position for equality in the United States. And as far as your position on marriage, I don't disagree. I don't agree with being married myself. But for those who are religious, it'd be very difficult to, and I think it'd be even wrong to tell boys and men that they shouldn't get married at all, period. I think there should be a middle ground. I think we should educate men about marriage and show them that there are statistical things that do show that men are at a worse position than women are when it comes to being married, especially after they're divorced. Not during marriage, but after they get divorced. When I was growing up, I read books by Gene Simmons. Sex, Money, Kiss. This is one of the best books I ever read about business. And it talks about leadership in there as well. It's basically a very good men's guide to being a business professional. And women can read it as well and gain a lot of benefits from reading it. Although I don't think they would be appealed too much by it. Anybody who watches the show Family Jewels can tell that Gene Simmons is not actually married to Shannon Simmons, but they have a cohabitation agreement, but also have 2 children, and they get along quite royally. And another one of my idols when I was growing up was Donald Trump. How to Get Rich, Think Big and Kick Ass, which I think the title has been changed because of its ass in it. But he suggests that you should not get married. But if you must get married, you should get a prenuptial agreement and make sure it's enforced in the courtroom so she doesn't take what she wants just because she feels like it, and you don't in turn also take what you want just because you feel like it after getting a divorce. Make sure the contract is clear and you know what you're getting whenever you enter into the contract and when you get out of that contract. So, with that being said, I think there should be educational programs for people who want to be married and what their options are, and say that marriage is not the only option, as people who are religious very much might need to save face with their family without being disowned by their family, might need to get married. So, with that said, I think there are some very legitimate points that you bring up, Barbaros, and I love that you put out this video. We need to act. Me personally, I'm trying to give support to a organization called Fathers for Equal Rights, along with other organizations I want to be an activist for right now, but I need to make sure that I have enough time for them, and I'm not just sitting on my ass and putting up videos on YouTube so everybody can watch them. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and favorite my video. I appreciate it.